is Jeff Neuman, one of the co-chairs of the new gTLD subsequent procedures PDP working group. So Jeff, we know that the top-level geographic names is one of the many topics in the PDP. So why this topic is chosen as one of the cross-community discussions in this meeting? And also, as a follow-up question, we know the topic has been a long-term discussion in ICANN in many groups. So why now that we have this discussion?
Yeah, that's a great question. As you said, the topic of geographic names at the top level has been discussed for many years. In fact, I remember discussions going back to 2005, 2006. And the discussions back then had resulted in what we had called the applicant guidebook, in which a number of top-level domains, there were 2,000 applications, or pretty close to 2,000. A number of them were for geographic top-level domains. And for a lot of the applications, the rules were pretty straightforward. If you wanted to apply for a city, for example, you needed to have a letter of support. If you wanted to apply, you couldn't apply for other geographic terms. But there were some complications for some of the applications which were not necessarily covered within the applicant guidebook. And one of our tasks in the subsequent procedures working group is to review what worked in the applicant guidebook, what didn't work in the applicant guidebook, and how we can improve those processes. And from early on, geographic names at the top level, while there were a number of things that worked, there were a number of cases which didn't quite fit into the mold that was set up in the applicant guidebook. So top-level domains that were applied for, like .spa, .bar, .tata, and a host of other names, while they were city names in one respect, they were proposed to be used in a non-geographic sense. There was a lot of confusion as to how the applications and evaluation should be handled, and some of which a number of members of the community found to be confusing, and they really seek clarity on how these types of applications will be handled going forward. And these issues, as we talked about, have been discussed at a number of meetings, but they're usually discussed within individual silos. So the generic name supporting organization discuss it in one area. The country code name supporting organization, they're discussing it in their group. And of course, the Governmental Advisory Committee, they formed their own working group to talk about these types of issues. In order to make progress on this, we realized that we needed to engage in a cross-community level, that really coming up with positions in each silo makes it much more difficult that when the silos get together to agree on any form of compromise, because by that time, these groups are already set in their positions. So Avri and I and other members of the leadership of the subsequent procedures working group decided that the policy forum, which is what we're in right now, the middle meeting of the year, would really be the best place that we could focus from a policy level on these geographic names.
Definitely, that's a brilliant idea to bring the community together to discuss. So one of the key concepts that we heard is the straw person concept. Can you elaborate a little bit on this concept?
Sure. So the work for this cross-community session actually began shortly after the last ICANN meeting in Copenhagen. And we had announced at that meeting we would have 2 webinars on this very subject to talk about the positions of each of the different communities within ICANN. And we had that in late April, and really was widely attended by a number of different people from different organizations around the world. And what we had decided after we had gotten input and proposals on how to handle geographic names going forward was to see if, as a tool, we could construct a mechanism or an example of a way forward which kind of encompasses pieces of many of the proposals that we had received. The straw person was put together by Avri and myself, really as a tool. It wasn't intended ever as a proposal in moving forward, but it was really to try and have a discussion on issues that, or on ways forward that took people out of their comfort zones. Because if we had just said, okay, let's just discuss the different options going forward, what you'd have most likely would be each group just arguing the same positions that they've had all along. But by putting a straw person together, whether it was equally hated by all or equally liked by all, it certainly created a topic of conversation. Now that straw person may never be implemented. Pieces of that may never be implemented, but what it did achieve its goal in the session that was held yesterday on getting people to talk about the different issues.
Right. So can you share with us a little bit more about your impression of yesterday's session?
So yesterday's session was really widely attended. The room was full, which was great. Again, that was one of our goals, was to get everyone together. Certainly members, lots of members from the Governmental Advisory Committee, from the Country Code Name Supporting Organization, and from the Generic Name Supporting Organization, as well as the ALAC, attended. And what we did really was to try to focus the conversation on, what were the strengths of this straw person, what are the weaknesses, and what could be done to move forward. The conversation, we believe, achieved its purpose because it really brought out to others the nature of the issue, the passion each group has for the issues, but also it got members of the community thinking about whether we could find a path forward. We are using the information we got yesterday in order to inform and help us set the agenda for tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a session that will be for 3 hours, so it's double the time of the last one. And during that session, we are going to take the information that we got from the first one and really ask a set of pointed questions to find out how we can find a mechanism to address the issues that were pointed out in the applicant guidebook, both from a side of members of the Generic Name Supporting Organization that think that there may have been too many protections, but also from the Governmental Advisory Committee, who approach this as we need to have additional protections for geographic territories that may not be countries or the cities that are protected in the current or in the 2012 applicant guidebook.
Right. Thank you so much, Jeff, for speaking with us today, and we look forward to the second session on Thursday.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Thank you.